During dinner, my mom pulled me aside and said, "We don't owe you anything anymore." So, I stopped paying every bill I'd covered and refused to stay part of the system where I gave while everyone else took. You know, there are moments in life that hit you so hard, they change everything. For me, it was Christmas Eve. I was standing in my mom's kitchen, reeking of cold wind, just trying to help when she pulled me aside and, with fake warmth, whispered, "We don't owe you anything anymore." What would you do if your own family, the people you'd always given everything to, suddenly told you that you were disposable? That night, something inside me snapped. I didn't make a scene. I didn't yell. I just quietly, systematically cut every single financial tie I had to them. Every bill, every subscription, every invisible thread I'd been holding up for years, gone. Revoked, unlinked. It was like I was done being their personal ATM, their unthanked safety net. Honestly, every single year around the holidays I tell myself, "Jackson, you are done with this family charade." And yet there I was again, Christmas Eve, schlepping groceries I wasn't even asked to bring. My mom had, in her infinitely passive-aggressive way, just added my name to the family group chat with a chirpy, "Jackson can grab the produce." No discussion. No, thank you. Just the quiet assumption that I'd pick up the slack. Again, I've always been the dependable one. The middle child, the one with the flexible job, the paid-off car. The one who doesn't mind helping. My older brother, Ryan, he's 32, the golden boy. He shows up once a year with some flashy new tech or girlfriend he'll dump by spring. And my mom treats him like he's cured cancer. My younger sister, Brooke, she's 24. The delicate artist, the dreamer. Code for doesn't work. She couch surfs, posts Etsy listings, and has mental health days that mysteriously align with family cleanup time. Me, I work in IT. Solid pay, remote flexibility, health insurance. I bought a condo 2 years ago. My mom tells her friends I do something with computers. She tells me I'm lucky I don't have real stress. The thing about my family? We don't yell. There's no dramatic shouting matches. It's all polite tones, passive-aggressive favors, and guilt-tripping disguised as gratitude. It's a smile when they hand you a task they don't want to do. It's an, "Of course you'll help, you're so good at this stuff," while your brother nurses a beer and your sister giggles over TikToks. This Christmas, I swore it would be different. I drew a line in the sand. One dish, I told myself. One bottle of wine. That's it. No errands. No last-minute grocery runs. No frantic calls to pick up wrapping paper. But it's like they could smell my resolve. A week before dinner, Mom called. "Jackson, can you just help with the ham? Dad never cuts it right." Then Brooke texted, "Can you grab some candles for the table?" Ryan, he didn't even respond to the group chat until the day before. "What time are we eating?" And somehow, no one seemed to notice or care about my silence. So, I showed up, arms full of stuff I never agreed to bring, a knot of quiet irritation twisting in my stomach. My mom greeted me with a distracted, "Oh, good, you're here. Can you help Brooke move the table?" No hug. No thanks. No Merry Christmas. I moved the table. I set the candles. I arranged chairs. I even fixed the damn Wi-Fi when Ryan complained it was laggy. I kept my mouth shut, told myself I was being dramatic, that it was just family. And this is what being part of one means, right? You do things without expecting a parade for it. But then dinner started. We sat around the table, Mom at the head, Dad next to her, Ryan and his new girlfriend, Stephanie, this one was cute, Brooke beside them, and me at the very end. The kids' seat. Even though I was the one who brought the wine we were drinking and paid for half the meal. And still I smiled. I made small talk. I passed dishes. I took photos. I pretended I wasn't slowly grinding my teeth into dust. Because that's what I'd always done. Until she pulled me aside. It was after dinner. Most of the table had cleared out to the living room where Home Alone was playing too loud. I was still at the sink, rinsing plates, because I knew no one else would. My mom came in, drying her hands, eyes darting around like she didn't want anyone to hear. I thought she was going to thank me, or maybe ask me to drive Brooke home again. But she put her hand on my shoulder, squeezed it with that fake warmth, and said, soft and serious, "You're old enough to stand on your own now, Jackson. We don't owe you anything." I blinked. What? She sighed, like she was doing me a favor. "I just think it's time you stopped acting like we have to include you in everything. You've always been independent. You don't need all this. I stood there, soaking wet plates in the sink, arms cold, heart pounding. My mom looked me in the eye and told me on Christmas, in the house I'd stocked with food and candles and wine, that I didn't need to be included, that I wasn't owed even the illusion of being part of it. I didn't say a word. I just nodded, quietly dried my hands, walked back to the table, finished the last bite of sweet potato casserole off my plate, took a slow sip of wine. Then I went upstairs to the guest room, closed the door, pulled out my phone, and made one phone call. That night I didn't sleep. And by morning, every single bill I'd been covering, Brooke's phone plan, Mom's Netflix, Dad's Amazon Prime, Ryan's Spotify family subscription, the shared HelloFresh box they all used was gone, cancelled, unlinked, revoked. Breakfast was silent, but it wasn't the kind of silence you get after a family argument. No, it was worse. It was the kind of silence where everyone knows something big happened, but no one wants to admit they don't understand it yet. They were still figuring it out, one by one, as their apps failed to load, as their phones told them payments were overdue, as the digital scaffolding I'd quietly been holding up for years began to vanish beneath them. And I just sat there, calm, eating eggs, wondering who would break the silence first. I expected my phone to blow up that morning. Angry texts, missed calls, maybe a dramatic knock on the guest room door. But nothing came, just silence. Thick, brittle. I woke up at 7 a.m. and crept downstairs, half expecting Mom to be bustling in the kitchen like she always did the morning after a big dinner. Coffee brewing, dishes clattering, some old Christmas jazz humming. Instead, I found her standing in the middle of the kitchen like she'd just walked into someone else's house, holding her phone, staring at it, her mouth set in a tight, confused line. She looked up when she noticed me. "Jackson," she said, voice too smooth, like she was auditioning for calm. "Did you change the Wi-Fi password again?" I poured myself a cup of coffee. "Nope." She held up her phone. "It's just not connecting." I shrugged. "Maybe Ryan can fix it. He's good at everything, right?" That hit. Her eyebrows twitched, just for a second, but she recovered quickly. No need to be snippy. Snippy. That was her word when she didn't want to acknowledge the root of something. When you pointed out an unfairness or questioned a decision, or simply didn't play along, you were snippy. I sipped my coffee and walked past her without another word. In the living room, the others were starting to stir. Brooke was curled up under a blanket on the couch, scrolling on her phone, her face scrunched in confusion. "Jax," she called out, "is Spotify down?" "No," I said, not looking up from my mug. "It says the family account doesn't exist anymore," she whined. I sat in the armchair across from her and nodded, like I was genuinely interested. "Huh, weird. Did Mom cancel it?" she asked. I didn't answer. Ryan stumbled in next, shirtless, yawning like he just hiked Everest. "Yo, anyone else's Prime not working? I was gonna show Steph that dumb elf movie." Steph followed behind him, brushing her hair back. "The one with the candy cane sword?" "Yeah," he said, grabbing the remote. "But it logged me out." "No way." Brooke sat up straighter. "That happened to me too." That's when it began. The slow unraveling. The invisible web of convenience I'd been quietly funding started to tangle. Brooke's phone buzzed with a notification. Her data plan had been suspended. She blinked at the screen, then looked at me like I'd kicked her puppy. "Jackson," she said, voice high-pitched and suspicious. "Did something happen to the phone bill?" I leaned back. "I don't know, Brooke. Did something happen to you appreciating any of it?" "What's that supposed to mean?" "Figure it out." Mom re-entered the room just in time to hear Brooke squawk. "He canceled my phone." "Jackson," Mom said sharply, the calm now cracking. "Did you actually, not just hers," I said. "Yours too. And Dad's Prime. And the Netflix account. And the HelloFresh box that shows up at your door every Tuesday, even though you've never paid for it. I even canceled the shared HBO that none of you knew I was footing." The silence was suffocating. No one said anything. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't angry. Just done. Ryan made a face like he'd smelled something bad. "That's a bit dramatic, don't you think?" That broke something in me. Dramatic? I laughed, short and bitter. "Ryan, you haven't paid for a single streaming platform in 5 years. You show up once a year with a new girlfriend and act like a king. Brooke texts me rent money requests like it's a part-time job. Mom drops casual errands into my day like I'm a personal assistant. And Dad, he doesn't even look at me during dinner. And after all that, I get pulled aside and told I don't need to be included anymore. Mom blinked, flustered. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. And I heard you loud and clear. Steph cleared her throat awkwardly. I think I'm going to go call an Uber. Ryan looked annoyed. Babe, it's fine. It's just a family thing. No, I said, eyes on him. It's not. It's a habit. A long, toxic, entitled habit. And I just broke it. They didn't know what to say because deep down they knew it was true. But here's the thing. When you take away someone's unearned comfort, they don't thank you. They panic. And then they get mean. It started subtly. That afternoon, while I was packing my things, Brooke stormed into the guest room. I don't get why you're making such a big deal, she snapped. We're family. No, Brooke. We're a system. One that only works when I keep giving. I never asked you to. You asked every month when you couldn't make rent. You asked every time you forgot to Venmo for dinner. You asked every time you used my Netflix, my Spotify, my Apple Music, my Uber Eats promo codes. She folded her arms. Fine. I'll delete the apps. You don't get it, I said, standing tall. It's not about the apps. It's about respect. And I'm done being invisible until something needs fixing. I expected her to yell. Instead, she looked at me with something worse, pity. Like I was overreacting. Like I was being emotional. Whatever, she said, walking out. Guess you're just not who I thought you were. That line stuck with me. Because for years, I'd been trying to be exactly who they needed. Helpful. Reliable, quiet, and the moment I stopped, I became difficult, ungrateful, a problem. Dinner that night was tense. No one said much. The table, so loud the night before, was now filled with awkward chewing and clinking forks. Dad asked if anyone saw the game. No one answered. Mom passed the peas with robotic efficiency. Ryan kept glancing at his phone like he was waiting for a better offer. And then she said it. Jackson. Mom started not looking at me. I think we should talk. Alone. I followed her into the kitchen. She turned, arms crossed, lips pressed tight. I don't know what point you're trying to make, but you've really upset your sister. She's a grown woman, Mom. She's sensitive. She's manipulative. Her eyes widened. Don't you dare say that. She guilt trips you into paying for things. She fake cries to get out of responsibility. And you let her. She's going through a hard time. So am I. I snapped. But you don't see me weaponizing it. You just dump more on me because I don't complain. I thought you didn't mind. Well, I do now. And then she hit me with the phrase that lit the match. You've always been strong, Jackson. We just thought you didn't need as much. As much what? As much care? As much love? As much acknowledgement? I stared at her. All the childhood moments clicking into place like puzzle pieces. All the birthdays quietly skipped. The school plays attended for Ryan, but not me. The whispered he can handle it. Moments that left me carrying everything. Maybe I'm strong, I said, my voice shaking, because I had no choice. She said nothing. I walked out, past Brooke, sulking on the couch, past Ryan, pretending not to listen, past Dad, who looked at me for the first time that day and said, "You leaving?" "I am." He nodded, said nothing else. I opened the front door and paused. It was snowing lightly, quietly, the kind of snow that muffles sound and makes the world feel too still. I stood there, one hand on the doorknob, wondering if this would be the last time I did this. Played along, showed up, carried the weight in silence. And then I heard it. "Good luck out there, Jax." Ryan. It wasn't kind. It wasn't supportive. It was smug, a little amused, a little mocking. I turned, looked at him. "What's that supposed to mean?" He smirked. "Just saying, man. You made your choice. Hope it's worth it." I smiled back. For the first time all day it felt real. "Oh," I said, stepping outside into the snow. "It will be." I drove away that night without a word. No texts, no calls. Just a quiet, simmering rage underneath it all. But even that wasn't the breaking point. That came 3 days later. 3 days later, I got a call from my mom's number. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail I didn't bother to check. Then another the next morning. Then one from Brooke. Then Ryan texted me. A rare moment of direct communication. Yo, can you fix the Spotify thing? Can I add Steph to the plan again? I turned my phone over and stared at the ceiling. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. No buzzing notifications about bills. No frantic texts about one more thing someone forgot. No guilt-tripped emojis. Just silence. And yet, it wasn't peace. Not yet. Because underneath all of that silence was a hollow kind of ache. Not the kind you get from heartbreak or losing a friend, but something deeper, lonelier. Like I had amputated a part of myself that had gone rotten, but now had to relearn how to walk without it. My apartment was quiet that week, almost too quiet. I worked from home as usual, but even Slack felt emptier than normal. I'd canceled Christmas plans with my friends, told them I needed time to myself, which was true. But what I didn't tell them was that I didn't know how to talk about what had happened, because it didn't feel big enough to explain. There was no screaming match, no betrayal in the traditional sense, no dramatic disowning. It was just the years of slow, quiet erosion, and I finally stopped allowing it. But God, did it leave a scar. For the first few days after I left, I second-guessed everything. Not just the phone calls or canceling the accounts or walking out. I second-guessed my role in the family. Who was I if I wasn't the fixer, the helper, the unthanked lifeboat they all clung to? Would they talk behind my back now? Call me selfish? Or worse, would they pretend I was never that important to begin with? That part scared me the most. Because deep down, I wasn't angry about the money. I could make more. I wasn't even mad about the groceries or the subscriptions. It was what those things meant, the way I had tried, over and over again, to earn my place at that table. Not with words, not with conflict, but by being useful, by being convenient. And the moment I wasn't needed. That realization hit me hardest on New Year's Eve. I had no plans. I turned down invites to parties, didn't bother checking Instagram. I stayed in, made pasta, watched fireworks on my balcony, and at midnight I poured myself a drink and whispered, never again. It wasn't a resolution. It was a promise. I started therapy that month. It wasn't something I'd ever seriously considered before. Not because I didn't believe in it, I just thought I didn't deserve it. Like my problems weren't real enough. I had a job, a roof over my head, health. What right did I have to complain? But when I sat down across from a woman named Melissa and told her about the Christmas dinner and the phone call and the silence that followed, she didn't look at me like I was being dramatic. She nodded, then asked, "And how long have you been carrying the weight for them?" That was the first time I cried. The sessions helped slowly, not in any grand movie montage kind of way, but like steady rain softening hard earth. I started noticing patterns, the way I over-explained myself, the way I apologized when I asked for something, the way I kept track of every favor I did. Not because I wanted praise, but because I was scared that if I didn't keep proving myself, I'd be discarded. That was the root of it. I wasn't trying to be loved. I was trying not to be forgotten. Meanwhile, the silence from my family continued. A full 2 weeks passed before Mom reached out again, this time with a text. "I've been thinking about what you said. Can we talk?" I stared at it for a long time, typed a few replies, deleted them all. Eventually, I responded with, "Not yet." She didn't push. Around that time, I started saying no more often. Not just to them, to everyone. No to extra hours at work I didn't want. No to guilt-trippy friends who only called when they needed help moving or fixing their routers. No to invitations that came with strings attached. And you know what? The world didn't end. In fact, something strange happened. The space I created by saying no slowly filled with better things. Clearer air. People who respected boundaries. Hobbies I'd forgotten I liked. Woodworking, hiking, chess. I spent a weekend refinishing an old table I'd kept meaning to fix for 2 years. Turned out beautifully. Solid. Stable. Like something that would outlast me. I started calling my friend Eli more often. He was the only one who really asked me, how Christmas had gone. When I told him the whole story, he didn't interrupt. Just let me talk. Then he said, "Jack, that's heavy, man. But I'm proud of you. Most people just take it and never stop." We started playing chess over video call once a week. It became something to look forward to. A little routine that didn't ask anything of me beyond showing up. By February, something in me had shifted. I was sleeping better, eating better. I stopped flinching when I got notifications on my phone. Even work felt less exhausting. I'd been promoted to lead a small team, and for once, I didn't immediately volunteer to stay late or pick up slack. I delegated, trusted my team, took real breaks, and I started journaling. At first, just scraps, thoughts that felt too tangled to say out loud. But slowly, they became entries, stories, pieces of clarity. One of them started like this. I spent years trying to be their glue. Turns out, I was just their duct tape. That one hit hard. Then, around mid-February, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it ring like I usually did, but something nudged me to check the voicemail. It was Dad. He never called me directly. Always let Mom do the communicating. But here, he was, voice low and gravelly. "Hey Jackson, it's Dad. I wanted to say I've been reading some of the old bills that stopped coming. I didn't realize how much of it was you. And I know I should have. I should have asked. I should have noticed. Your mom's been trying, but I know we screwed up. Anyway, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I'm here. That's all." I sat there, phone against my chest for a long time. Not crying, not angry, just still. That night, I played chess with Eli. I told him about the voicemail, and he raised an eyebrow. "You going to call him back?" I shrugged. "Eventually. Maybe. Sounds like he's trying." "Yeah, but I'm not rushing." He nodded. "Good. That's the thing about rebuilding. It doesn't happen all at once. There's no dramatic breakthrough. It's just slow, consistent effort. Relearning who you are when you stop being the thing everyone else needs. It's hard, but it's worth it. I haven't been back to that house since Christmas. Not yet, but I know I will be eventually. And when I do, things will be different. Because I'll be different. And so will the power I carry when I finally, calmly, stand up from that table again. Not with resentment, not with anger, but with a quiet strength that says, I'm not here because you need me. I'm here because I choose to be." It was the third week of March when the real opportunity showed up, wrapped in a bland email subject line like it wasn't going to change everything. Subject: Jackson, we'd love to feature you in our employee spotlight. I nearly deleted it, thought it was another newsletter, but then I recognized the sender, Patricia from HR. She was organizing a segment for the company website, highlighting team leads who'd made significant impacts. I'd been promoted recently, sure, but I hadn't expected anyone to notice. Not really. I was just doing my job, quietly, efficiently. But apparently someone had noticed. The interview was casual. A few questions over Zoom, some headshots, a brief chat about leadership values and how I managed my team through the last quarter's crunch without a single late delivery. I didn't think much of it until Patricia mentioned the view count. "You're at over 10,000 views on the post already," she said. "One of the highest we've ever had." I blinked. "Seriously?" "Oh yeah, and we've had a few clients reach out to request you specifically for future systems projects. I hope that's okay." I nodded, slow and stunned. "Yeah, that's more than okay." And just like that, something clicked. Something quiet. Something powerful. I wasn't just rebuilding. I was rising. See, for years my family had treated me like a background character. The helper, the fixer, the one who'd figure out. But outside their house, outside that suffocating little orbit, they had no idea who I'd become, how far I'd come, and how much leverage I'd been quietly building. It started with that spotlight, but the real setup, that came from the one thing they did still rely on me for, even after Christmas: property. See, back in 2021, when my parents were going through a rough patch financially, something they downplayed to everyone else, they called me, asking if I could co-sign the refinance on their house. Just for the paperwork, just temporarily. "Your credit's better than ours," my mom had said, with that brittle laugh she used when she needed something. I agreed stupidly, but I made sure of one thing. My name was added to the title. It wasn't something they paid much attention to. Probably assumed it was just legalese. But I knew what it meant. And I didn't think much of it at the time. I trusted them. Fast forward to now, March 2025. And that little piece of paperwork was still sitting quietly in the county property database. Untouched. Unmentioned. but very real. And suddenly I had leverage, not because I wanted to take anything from them, but because I wanted them to see what they'd done, what they'd taken for granted, what they so casually dismissed with a "we don't owe you anything." I didn't want revenge that looked like yelling or lawsuits or court drama. I wanted clarity. I wanted them to feel the weight I'd carried and the silence I'd sat in, and recognize how fragile their comfort had always been. I started by making a few calls, quiet ones. First, to a real estate lawyer I knew from a client project. We chatted once over lunch about estate law and property rights, and I remembered something he'd said that stuck with me. People don't understand how much power comes with your name on a deed until it's too late. I asked him what I could legally do as a co-owner. He chuckled. Well, unless there's a written agreement saying otherwise, you've got a 50% stake, my friend. You can sell your share. You can force a partition. You can even block any refinance or sale until they buy you out. And if I just sit on it, I asked, then they can't do anything major without your signature, not even take out a line of credit. I thanked him and hung up. Then I logged into the account I hadn't touched in over a year, the shared mortgage portal, still active, still showing my name, still listing me as a primary contact. I didn't make a move, not yet. I wasn't looking to pull the rug out from under anyone. I was preparing the stage, because I knew my family. They weren't going to come to me with humility. They were going to come to me when they needed something. And sure enough, 2 weeks later my phone buzzed. It was Brooke. Hey, do you know anything about refinancing the house? Mom, said the bank, said something's wrong with the title. I let it sit for an hour before responding. Yeah, I know. She replied almost instantly. Wait, what does that mean? It means they can't do it without me. But why? Because I'm on the deed, Brooke. But you're not really on it, right? Like not for real. No, I'm very much on it. I have a copy of the title. Her typing bubble flickered for a full minute, then disappeared, then came back. Are you going to take the house? I smiled almost sadly. I don't want the house. I just want them to understand how easy it would be. She didn't reply. That night I got a call from Mom. No voicemail this time, just a missed call, then another, then one from Dad, then Ryan. I didn't answer any of them. I wasn't ready yet. Instead, I got to work on phase 2. See, the house was just one part of the equation. The financial control I'd slowly pulled back after Christmas had started to rattle them. But I knew they'd find workarounds. Ryan would borrow from a friend. Brooke would cry to her roommates. Mom and Dad would blame the economy. The real message wouldn't hit until it came from someone they respected. So I called Aunt Mel, my mom's older sister, the only member of the family who had ever treated me like a full adult. She was the black sheep, never married, ran a small business, traveled a lot. She lived 3 states away, but always sent cards on my birthday, real ones with actual handwriting. She picked up on the 3rd ring. Jackson, she said, surprised. Everything okay? I hadn't spoken to her in over a year, but when I explained the Christmas dinner and the years leading up to it, and what I'd been quietly doing since, she didn't interrupt once. When I finished, she said, I always wondered why you seemed so tired when we talked. I exhaled. I didn't even notice it myself. Then she asked the question that sealed it. What do you need from me? And I told her, not money, not favors, just truth. A few days later, she called my mom. I don't know what she said, but I know my mom cried because Brooke texted me that night. Mom's really upset. Why would you tell Aunt Mel? Because she listens. That weekend, my dad sent me a long email full of rationalizations. We didn't know you felt this way. We never meant to make you feel excluded. It's not about owing anyone. It's about family doing what they can. I didn't reply, but I printed it out, highlighted the parts that mattered, because there was one final piece I was waiting for, one thing that would complete the setup, and it came like clockwork in early April, a wedding invitation from Brooke. She was getting married that summer. Outdoor venue, rustic theme, Pinterest perfect, and the RSVP card had a little handwritten note. Hope you can help with the tech stuff again. You're the best. No apology, no acknowledgement, no mention of Christmas or the house or the silence. Just another request, another assumption, Another quiet expectation that I'd show up, smile, and serve. I placed the invitation gently in the trash and started planning the final act. By the time Brooke's wedding rolled around in late June, the storm had been brewing for 6 months. From the outside, everything looked perfect. Their backyard had been transformed into a boho chic wonderland. Wooden arch draped in eucalyptus, mason jar lanterns hanging from trees, live acoustic music floating in the air, like everything had been handpicked from a wedding influencer's feed. Everyone wore light tones and soft smiles. Except me. I didn't wear a smile, and I didn't wear light tones. I wore charcoal gray, clean, tailored, quiet. I stood out just enough to make them uncomfortable, but not enough to say anything. It was a hot day, but I wasn't sweating. Not anymore. Because I wasn't here to help. I was here to watch it fall. Now, before you think I'm a monster for showing up to my sister's wedding with revenge in my back pocket, understand this. She invited me, expected me, sent me a separate list of tech stuff 2 weeks before the wedding, asked if I could bring my own gear, just like I had for Cousin Erin's wedding and Dad's retirement party. What she didn't ask was whether I wanted to. She never asked how I was doing. Never once said sorry. Not after Christmas. Not after the phone plan was canceled. Not after the property deed blew up in her face. Not after Aunt Mel chewed out Mom for sweeping me under the rug like a worn-out welcome mat. They didn't call. They didn't visit. They just assumed I'd show up and play my part. But this time I had a different script. Let me take you back 1 month before the wedding. The florists called me, confused. Yes, so was I. Apparently, my mother had listed me as the backup billing contact for several wedding vendors, florist, photographer, and the damn porta-potty rental company, just in case any last-minute charges popped up, because I'm so responsible. At first, I considered calling them and setting the record straight, but then I realized this was the perfect setup. All I had to do was wait. Fast forward to 3 days before the wedding. I called each vendor, calmly and politely, and told them the backup billing card was being removed. They were surprised but professional. The account has to be covered before services are delivered. I reminded each of them. They confirmed. I said thank you. Then I hung up. Then I turned off my phone. No more warnings. Let the pieces fall. June 24th, wedding day. I showed up early as requested, but didn't lift a finger. When Brooke saw me, she waved with one hand and pointed to the speaker setup with the other. You brought your cables, right? I totally forgot to text you. I smiled. Nope. She blinked. Wait, what? I didn't bring anything. I'm just here to enjoy the wedding. But who's setting up the playlist? I looked around the yard. I assume someone you paid. She stammered. I thought you were. Didn't ask me to. Didn't confirm anything. Not my job. Her eyes narrowed. Seriously. Dead serious. She stormed off without another word. Half an hour later, the photographer arrived. Or tried to. The parking volunteer came over, whispering something to my mom. Her face fell like a puppet with its strings cut. I already knew what it was. Photographer hadn't received final payment. Credit card declined, and the backup contact, me, was no longer on file. 15 minutes later, the florist called. No card on file. Bouquets still in the van. My mom started to panic. She pulled me aside near the lemonade station and hissed, "What the hell is going on?" I tilted my head. "What do you mean?" "Vendors are saying they don't have payment. Your card was supposed to be on file." "Not anymore. I removed myself a while ago." "But you said—" "No," I interrupted. "You assumed. Big difference." She looked like she wanted to slap me or cry. Maybe both. "I don't understand why you're doing this." I sipped my drink. "I'm not doing anything. Just letting the consequences catch up." She stared at me, mouth open. But before she could say more, Ryan walked over. "I just got a text," he said. "The porta-potties are on hold." My mom closed her eyes. "I thought Jackson," Ryan started. "Jackson didn't," I said calmly. And I walked away. The ceremony was delayed an hour. Guests milled around, confused and sweating. Chairs were being moved. The florists eventually agreed to release the flowers after Brooke scrambled to Venmo her in real time. The photographer left. They tried to replace her with someone's cousin and a rented Canon. The worst part, the music, or lack thereof. Brooke walked down the aisle in silence. No acoustic playlist. No soft piano. Just the distant sound of a neighbor's dog barking. When she reached the altar, she shot me a look that could peel paint off a wall. I smiled and nodded. After the ceremony, I watched as Mom and Ryan huddled in a corner, whispering furiously. Dad stood by the open bar, nursing a whiskey and pretending nothing was wrong. Brooke was smiling for selfies, but her eyes were glassy tight. It wasn't a disaster, but it wasn't the wedding she'd imagined. And that was enough. After the cake was cut and the fake photographer started packing up, Brooke finally cornered me. Her makeup had started to melt in the heat, and the smile was long gone. You ruined my wedding, she said, quiet and deadly. I sipped my drink. No, you did that when you decided I was a utility and not a person. She blinked. You're being so cruel. I raised an eyebrow. Cruel? You told Mom to cut me out of family photos 2 years ago because it would mess with the symmetry. You faked a panic attack to avoid helping me move. You told your fiancé I was emotionally manipulative because I asked to be paid back for rent 1 month. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. I stepped closer, kept my voice low. You've spent years treating me like a spare part, a background actor in the Brooke show. And every time I gave you more money, more support, more patience, you thanked me by pretending I didn't exist unless you needed something. I paused. So I gave you nothing today. Nothing, but exactly what you gave me for most of my adult life. She looked away. I walked off before she could answer. As I passed Ryan, he muttered, You didn't have to go that far. I didn't stop walking. No, Ryan, I didn't have to go that far. I chose to, for once. That night, I drove home with the windows down. No music, just the wind. No calls, no messages. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel angry or empty. I felt free. The next day, I got a call from Aunt Mel. She didn't say much, just laughed down the line and said, Jackson, I hope you took a slice of cake. I did, I said, and a flower from the table. Thought I earned it. Damn right you did, she hung up. That Monday, I logged into the mortgage portal, removed myself from the property, formally signed the release. It was never about the house. I just wanted them to know they never owned me. A week later, I got one final text from Mom. We've been talking. We'd like to invite you to dinner. Just you. No expectations. No favors. Just us. I read it twice, then I deleted it. No response. Not because I wanted to punish them, but because I finally understood something I'd been blind to for too long. Forgiveness doesn't mean reopening the door. Sometimes it just means walking away without burning the house down and never looking back. And that's exactly what I did. So tell me, have you ever reached a point with your family where you had to completely change the dynamic, even if it meant risking everything? What would you have done in my place? I'm genuinely curious to hear your thoughts in the comments below.